Thomas Fidone captures keen interest of Matt Rhule. And we heard Bob Wager as well talk about Fidone, but just that competitive chip on the shoulder, that Council Bluffs, Iowa,
Lewis Central,
Max Duggan.
Yeah.
He's just got all of that. He's got a chip to him right now. And he's angry. I mean, this is a guy that wanted to be playing a lot of football the last 2 years, hasn't played any football other than a couple limited snaps during that 2021 season.
Yeah, this has the potential to be something really special because we talk about this, Sean. We've talked about this over the years. You've seen plenty of guys that were talented, even as talented as Fidone, not necessarily at tight end, but at other positions, that this didn't have the drive. They didn't have the killer, the killer, and the want to. Fidone not only is awesomely talented, he has the it factor and he has the killer instinct. He wants badly to be good. Now, you just hope he stays injury free because it's all there. He's got the size. Rhule says he's making plays in 2-minute offense up the seam, just like you'd imagine. Like when you close your eyes and think about Thomas Fidone, what do you think of him running down the seam and making catches over smaller guys? So it's a beautiful picture, and you just hope it keeps going.
And he's focused. He never was like caught up in his ranking.
Yeah. He's not that type of guy.
But you think about back to high school. I remember it was right before COVID kind of hit, that January of 2020, when the coaches could go out. Like Jim Harbaugh went to his basketball game. Your radio co-host Bill Bush went to his basketball game for LSU.
Is that right?
Georgia had coaches there. I don't know if it was Kirby Smart, but maybe Todd Monken. But you had a lot of big name guys on Thomas Fidone. And he had the world at that moment, and it just, he's had bad luck, and for him to stay focused and, he's highly competitive. I'll never forget in high school, Steve Warren was putting together an event, and he did not need to compete in it because he's already a top tight end. But he said, I wanted to compete in the event to show these other guys what you have to do to be the best. Wow. And that's how he's wired.
It's exciting. You just wish you could fast forward to August, to September, to early September, and see what that looks like. Cause I think it's going to look really good.
Staying on the subject of tight ends. By the way, is it Arik, Arik, or Arik? Today, I've heard like 4 different versions.
Well, today Matt Rhule called him Eric, didn't he?
Yeah, but MJ Sherman, who played with him at Georgia at my St. Michael's event, told the crowd he calls him Arik.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like,
it's okay.
I don't know.
Arik.
Gilbert.
Yeah.
He's a guy. The waiver thing. I asked Rhule about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
And what's going on with this waiver? I think he's going to get it. Georgia's going to sign off on it, and they're okay with it. I think they understand. I'm guessing Georgia didn't want him in the SEC, so they're glad to sign off on a waiver to Nebraska. If he was transferring to Florida, I'm sure somewhere else in the SEC, that might be a little bit different conversation. But Matt Rhule is behind this kid, and this waiver process, how that goes. We'll find out probably in the late spring or June. But I would expect he gets it. No questions asked.
Oh, I don't know. I hope so. Matt Rhule, I heard you asked the question. I heard his answer. I didn't quite hear it that way, that it's a done deal. He said if it's a process. Yeah, it's a process. And he said if he doesn't get it, what he said that was most interesting was if he doesn't get it, he'll either train to play with us next year or go to the NFL. He did invoke the NFL in the conversation.
So what's that? What draft? Would he enter the draft at that point, or would he?
Yeah, he'd be eligible, I would think.
What's that draft called? Like the supplement draft, or what do you call it?
Supplemental draft.
Yeah, Chris Patrick.
I don't know if they still have that.
Like they can.
I don't even know if they have that anymore. I know. Yeah, that Chris Patrick did get drafted in the supplemental draft, but I don't think that's an every year thing. You'd have to do the research on that, but I'm just saying what Rhule said. He said, yeah, if he doesn't get the waiver, he'll either train to play here next year or train for the NFL. I was like, wow. Interesting. But the bottom line is the tight end position should be a strong part of the offense, probably the second strongest part behind the running backs. Maybe it'd be better. I mean, if Fidone and Gilbert are cleared, full go, that could be the strongest part. And Bonner and Bonner and Janier and Bonner
and Luke Lindenmeyer.
Yeah, they have a good group. They're committed to Bonner. You can tell. Bonner is a great example of a guy that's benefiting from the coaching change. They found a position for him, a hybrid tight end.
Well, and that was a late addition. I mean, no one even, I'll put it this way. When he announced in Nebraska last February on signing day, February of 2022, like nobody knew it was coming. Like it was kind of just kept under wraps. And you know, no one really knew much about his story. You wrote a great thing about Bonner and the leg injury that he's overcome and how he was ejected from a vehicle.
And it robbed him of his junior year.
Broke his femur, right?
Broke his femur, yeah, the biggest bone in your body. And now he came back and had a big junior year or big senior year, and was a 4-star player. It was a good get for Nebraska. But Sean, you've seen him. He doesn't look like a wideout. He's a bulky body. He hybrid tight end where they shift him to the backfield, which they do. They shift him to fullback. Looks perfect for him. And I think he's a football player. I mean, I think you could line him up at fullback and say, you got to go block a little bit, and he can do it. He's a big, strong dude. I've talked to him. He's got a kind of a fullback demeanor to him. He's a tougher dude, no nonsense guy. I mean, that position is really, think about it, Sean. You have two bona fide 4 or 5-star tight ends, and you throw in another 4-star. Janier was a 4-star receiver. It's a lot of talent out there. It is. It's a lot of talent.
Yeah, and I remember when he got here, like immediately stepping off the bus, people like he looks different than guys we have. They just had to find a spot for him.